right, guys, welcome. This is the Study of Stuff, a podcast. With me, I have Logos Cinema. You've heard me talking about them. Definitely, if you had private conversations with me, 100%. I've mentioned them on the show a couple of times, both on SOS Radio. They've come up in podcasts as well. It seems that these two fine gentlemen and what we're doing is very similar from different aspects, but we have a lot in common as to why we started what we're doing here on SOS and Board No More and what they're doing on Logos Cinema. Their name has been batted around quite a bit. Everyone I mentioned them to, they know exactly who they are. So it's time for you guys to find out who these fine gentlemen are. Welcome to the show, Andrew and Zach.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Super excited to be on.
Absolutely. Okay, it's been a long time coming. We've had a hard time trying to book this from both of our ends, and we finally did it. So how about we start off with a quick introduction, both of you guys, kind of like anything you want to tell the audience, kind of a little quick snapshot bio of both of you.
Yeah, I'll let Zach go first because usually I start. So
it's my time to shine.
We'll let Zach go first.
Okay, let's do it.
I'm Zach. I'm actually a convert, fairly recent convert to Orthodox Christianity. I was baptized about 3 years ago on Pascha, and I come from essentially an agnostic household. So I didn't grow up around religion or any sort of deeper spiritual worldview. So I came into the faith with a very different perspective, but I was very appreciative of it. I've been doing filmmaking and video production and marketing since I was 14 years old. I got a really early head start in the industry, and I mentioned marketing before. I do that as a day job, and I have a lot of knowledge and expertise in it. But the meat and potatoes of what I love doing is telling stories. And that's what I've always wanted to do ever since I could remember. And that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, and I'm Andrew Skotich. I actually met Zach 3 years ago, about 6 months after he was baptized. Okay. And that's how we became friends. And actually, he's God family now. He's godfather to my 6-month-old little girl. But we met at the most unlikely place ever. So I'll start with that story in particular. The company that I work for at my day job, called Rhino Strategic Solutions, was having a Christmas party at the church I grew up at, St. George. They rent out their hall for events, and the manager of the hall called me up and said, "Hey, I want you to come film this Christmas party because it's insane." Was it Nelly that year?
I think it was Nelly.
Yeah. So they had Nelly as their live entertainment. And she's like, "You have to film this. Nelly's performing live in the hall."
Okay.
So I was like, sure, why not? And it was actually a few days before my second child was born. It was on the 20th of December or so. So I rolled down there. I'm filming just the decor and the extravagance of this Christmas party. And
mind you, I just want to cut in really quick. As a recent convert to Orthodoxy, they say we're having a Christmas party. They gave me the address. I drive there, and I'm like, why are we having a Christmas party in Orthodox church? Everything was lining up. I was like, wait, I just converted. I've never heard about Orthodoxy before, and now my Christmas party's being held here. So yeah, it was already kind of odd.
Very, very very much a God thing. So here I am filming the decorations. I'm filming this fire pit. And he accidentally didn't see the camera and walked in front of the frame. And he goes,
mistake.
"Oh, man, I'm so sorry, man. I ruined your shot." I was like, "Don't worry, man. I'm just filming the ambiance. I'm just filming everything that's here. You're totally good." He sits down. His cross pops out of his shirt. And it's a 3-bar cross.
Okay.
And I go, "You know what? There's he might be Catholic, but the odds are he's not. Most Catholics don't wear the 3-bar cross unless they're Eastern Rite, and that's few and far between."
Yep.
So I just went and said, "Yo, are you Orthodox?" He goes, I actually was just baptized this last Pascha." I was like, I've been Orthodox my whole life. And he's like, "No way." And so we started talking, and he let me know he was in film and video production. And so I invited him over for dinner, just thinking I had a separate business where I did mainly events, filming events and things of that nature. And I was like, I'm going to hire him to do this. And it was such a great dinner that we became really close friends. I was best man at his wedding.
Yeah.
And it's just really solidified our friendship. Prior to that, like professionally, I've been making films and shooting events for over 13 years, right out of college. Started doing that. I did, right out of college, also work for Apple for 10 years and learned to do like business-to-business sales, and learned the tech side of that. That was never my goal. That was supposed to just be a summer job. And I was going to go back and get my master's degree. And then Apple was like, hey, if you're full-time, we'll pay for your college education. So I was like, well, I guess I'm staying here till I get my master's. And you fast forward, time goes by fast. And I was there at 10 years later and decided to jump ship and move into doing video production full-time. What inspired me to get into video production, and more, I would say, really on the filmmaking side. But since we're both out here in Phoenix, Hollywood is not huge in Phoenix. Right. I had no desire to move to Los Angeles and deal with Los Angeles things. Like, I love LA, but it's a great place to visit, not a great place to live, in my opinion.
Understood.
So I just was like, I guess I'm going to just do video production here out in Phoenix. And I hadn't produced a narrative film since college. And that ended up changing this past year. Last year, everything kind of came to a head, and this is a great segue into like why we're doing what we're doing. Zach and I were a part of a team that was approached by a business out here in Phoenix called Rancho Bella. And they worked with former felons and veterans to help reintegrate them into society. And they would do that through equine therapy, which, are you familiar with equine therapy?
No. Maybe if you
Yeah,
just
okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. So equine therapy, I wasn't either. So equine therapy is essentially a psychologist works with the person who is taking care of a horse. And the reason why they do that is horses are similar to dogs, but they understand human emotions even more than dogs do. And so even with a person like that, they may not know what they're feeling or how to articulate it, but the horse can sense it. And then the psychologist can help them work through whatever it is that maybe is underlying there.
Oh,
They
it's similar
also
to they do that with dolphins too, right, or something like that?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're here in the desert, right? So
Right.
dolphins probably wouldn't do
Go to
great.
SeaWorld.
Yeah.
So they do that, plus they give them hard skills. So they end up teaching them how to, in this case, become master mechanics, and they would teach them how to build race cars.
Okay.
We ended up calling the show Horsepower, and we got all the way to the boardroom of Discovery Channel, where we ended up getting feedback from the Discovery board that, you know, this is a cool concept, but we feel this is too controversial, dealing with like the mental health issues and things of that nature. And I was like, man, if they think this is controversial,
Yeah.
no film I've
hear some
ever
of my
written.
ideas.
Yeah, wait till they read any of the scripts I've worked over the past 10 years that are all infused with my faith. So that's never going to happen. Ultimately, they didn't pick up the show because of those reasons. So after that, Zach and I were like, man, this was really a great experience. We have all these stories that we've written, and we would come up against the same problem. We know the story would be good, but where is it going to go? Everyone we would talk to would be like, where is it going to go? And one night after Horsepower being rejected, my wife and I were watching Man of God. And me, being a nerd, love to read about like how the production of the film went and everything. And I remember even when it was released, like how they were having to go city to city, theater by theater. It wasn't a national distribution in the traditional sense. They did get across the whole country and around the world, but it's very similar to what El Tonto por Cristo is doing currently. And I did some more research and was like, wow, Yelena Popovich actually has like a secular Hollywood, like she's produced other films and she has the contacts in Hollywood, and it was running into the same issues with Man of God. No one would pick it up or distribute it. So this isn't really necessarily a story problem. And I called Zach up and I was like, what if we created a streaming application? Working for 10 years at Apple, I was like, I can throw a rock and hit a developer. Like, that's not hard to do. Like, I just need to figure out how the back end works. And thanks be to God, like, that's what my father does. My father develops data networks for the Fortune 100. So I just called him and I was like, Dad, I have this crazy idea. What would it take to develop a streaming application? And he was intrigued with the idea enough to where he got me a couple meetings with some developers as well as the data centers, because we have to support this across not just here in Phoenix or in the United States, but across the world. And what would that look like and how much would that cost? And I was able to really solve the piece of the puzzle that I think a lot of people maybe don't have access to. Yep. And that kind of brought us to where we are today. I also brought on a mentor as we were getting closer to the launch who essentially had us think different. And we were able to find a software provider where we were able to negotiate.
Let me pause you right there. Think different. How think different?
So thinking differently in the way we would go to market, specifically with like all the research we've done, we know there's a decent sized Orthodox population around the world. When you start to look at the United States, you get varying numbers. Yep. Between like on social media, there's a lot of people who will post stuff saying Orthodoxies reach 6 million people in the United States. Yep. But then you look at the census data and it's like 795,000. Yep. Which also the census data you can't take for truth because there's errors in that.
And that's also from 2020, the most recent, I believe.
Well, no, it's even older than that. 2020's census data was not accurate due to COVID-19 in particular.
Yep. I looked into this too. That's why I can confirm. Yeah, I was trying to get the actual number because 6 million sounded crazy and 700, 800,000 sounded like too minimal. So yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're 100% right. And so we were doing a lot of research and not having like that hard statistic, which it's somewhere in the realm of probably 1.5 to 2 million. My mentor said, it's great that you have this research data, but as a potential investor into a business, I would want to have hard data. Yep. And so when he posed that question to me, instead of feeling like it was a defeat, I just went back and said, well, the only way for me to get hard data is to start marketing this. But we can't start marketing this and then have a whole bunch of people want to have this service and no funding to do so. So our software provider, we were able to negotiate to where we were not having to pay up front to do that. Okay. And that's why like 2 months ago, we launched the social media platforms and began talking about it just to test the waters. And I will tell you, it's been incredible. We have about just shy of 2,000 followers on Instagram from 2 months ago. Most of that happened in the first 3 weeks.
And it was all organic. We've put no money behind paid advertising. That's all just word of mouth and what we're putting out there and the interest it's generating. And like you said, it's just been it's overwhelming the amount of people who have reached out, either with words of support and encouragement or people who want to support financially or creatives. The creatives has been some of the best things to come out of this. If nothing else came out of this, it's being able to meet with so many of these people who have similar, like yourself, similar visions and similar aspirations for storytelling and media and culture. So it's been such a blessing.
Yeah, I would say like actually, Mano, you were one of the first people that I connected with in those early weeks that we got to have a really good conversation about what Orthodox media can be.
Yep.
And that's our goal is we want to take it, like we've seen with Man of God, that's our hope, is not just like having one person creating that, but many people creating something incredible. And that's the cool thing about Logo Cinema, is we're not just doing it because we need an outlet to make our films or things of that nature.
Same.
We said, if we're in this position, there's probably at least hundreds, if not thousands of people who are in the same position where they have an incredible story to tell, but they don't know where they're going to put it because traditional media doesn't necessarily want to pick up these stories. And we know that there is a hunger for these types of stories out there. And if the old guard, so to speak, isn't going to do it, we need to take it in our own hands and do it ourselves. And I know, like for you, you're doing something similar with your venture.
Yeah, we are, and it's funny because you're checking all the boxes for what kind of how we've been approaching it too. We're kind of using the death. I was actually talking to a pretty decent sized artist, big amongst the Orthodox community for sure. And we were talking about how this would work out and what we can do for them and this and that, and how we're kind of presenting our product to market. And we're using the Death to the World model. We're using the punk rock DIY model, which seems very much how Man of God was made, and how you guys are approaching it, and a lot of other Orthodox content creators. Also kind of coupling it up and making it a community effort where everyone kind of has a home where they can go, a platform where they can kind of share their art, share their stories, and kind of come together on this whole thing. And it almost seems like our job moving forward, hopefully God willing, if everything kind of works out, by our job, I mean both you guys and us, is kind of, we're like sort of curators. We're kind of curating a community and kind of piecing things together so that if you come to Logo Cinema or you go to the Board No More network, you know what you're getting because it's kind of curated content and it's kind of given the okay, the thumbs up, the seal of approval to some degree. Not that we're gatekeeping, but necessarily we do have a mission statement similar to you guys as well. So I'm really happy. When I first saw what you guys were doing, I think it was like the first week you guys launched. I think I reached out and I said, "Hey, I think we're working on the same project in a different way. We should kind of connect here." And then moving forward from that, seeing what you guys have been doing in the short period of time that you've been doing this, you're definitely on the right track, if I can put it that way.
Yeah, it definitely feels that way, and it's interesting. One of the things prior to the show that we were talking about is like the spiritual warfare and how much like more we're needing to lean into our faith and lean into the church as we do this. It was interesting when we first launched. There was a gentleman. I think it's a gentleman. I don't know, but that commented on like, oh, this has the wrong telos. Like we need to be focused on church and everything. And I'm like, how we wanted to respond respectively, because the goal is not to replace the church at all. Absolutely. It is to be a supplement to the church.
Correct.
Like everyone is going to go home and watch television. Like that is what we do, or they're going to watch social media.
It's just a part of our modern culture. And I did say, in our response that, if I could snap my fingers and get rid of all of the technology and the commodified, the commodities that we have that distract us a lot of the time, or serve as an outlet for the evil one to attack us, I would in a second to get rid of all of it. But it's just not realistic to think that way. And we're certainly not monks. We can't. We don't feel called to go into a monastery away from the world. We're in the world, so we're looking at these ways that we feel we've been given these gifts from God. Which we would say is storytelling. Ultimately, how can we try and by God's grace, sanctify the culture, which has gone so astray? And this was kind of almost a no-brainer for us. It's like we want to tell these stories. We see all of this debaucherous, degenerate media flooded. Let's plant our flag in the grounds of modernity and start to fight back instead of receding and letting them take more grounds.
I've had similar responses as well, and from other people, like a few people have commented in such a way, and my answer was very similar. Like the culture that's out there that's been created by others to social engineer us, to direct us, to nudge us in negative ways. It's part of life. It's part of the way it is. Our children are going to grow up in that world and this and that. The best that we could do is use the technology for good. So we use the technology rather than the technology using us. And also something that I keep preaching on the show, and forgive me for using the term preaching, is going from digital to analog. The whole goal is to create this community so eventually one day you guys will have a screening or an event, or we can couple up and do something together. Just exactly like I did on the weekend. I went and I met people that listened to the show. And we went from the digital to the analog, and I spent time with them, where on Sunday? In church. So this kind of thing builds the community through the content that we create and through the media, and inverting their inversion, really.
Yeah.
100%. And if you think about it, right, like community is based around being with people, right? And people are going to talk with one another. And one of the things that we talk about are great stories. And we talk about movies. I know growing up, that's one of the key icebreakers I would do is like start talking about a movie if I didn't know someone. And that's what we want to do. We don't want it to be like that. It's not supposed to be. Somebody asked us, I should say. Let me rephrase that. Yeah, somebody should ask us, like, will we have live streaming of church services on the platform? I don't want to do that. I've actually even joked that during the hours, depending on the time zone you're in, coding into the application where it's locked out when the divine liturgy is going on. And if you try to log in, it pops up with a message that says, go to church. And then if they put in their password and say, yes, I want to watch this, it then pops up with a second message that says, are you sure? And then it has the meme underneath it, like with the guy going, are you sure?
Or that too,
but ultimately, we probably won't take that agency around from people, ultimately. But,
maybe.
Like, do we have the ability to do that? Yes, we do. But we probably won't, just due to legal reasons. Like, that might be bad. But it would be very funny and very much in line with what we believe.
Absolutely.
So, movies are just another art form. I would say it's a culmination of all the art forms into one, just as much as like a stage play would be, but the stage is a community event, and I'm not talented to be a stage writer. I think that's also too niche of a market in particular. The common vernacular in the world is film and television and social media and YouTube. And that's also another thing is like all of us currently who are creating Orthodox content are scattered. We're all vying for people via YouTube and the algorithm of YouTube and Google. And we have to play by their rules, right? And you have to be careful of what you say on those platforms, because if you go against the community guidelines, you can get in trouble. And it can take down something that is actually really good just because of an arbitrary decision. And that was another like goal with Logos is like, hey, we're going to create a home base for Orthodox people to be able to have conversations and tell the stories we want to tell without the fear of having to appease the Googles, the Metas, the Apples of the world to do so. And I mean that's the beauty of being in America is having that freedom of speech to do so.
Yes, sir.
And the way to utilize that right is if we're not going to be able to follow the guidelines of those companies, we're going to create our own company. And we have that beauty to do that here. And it's funny, like one of my friends from church was telling me once that he's like, St. Paisios prophesied this, not just that America will one day be holy, but he said that specifically, and forgive me if I'm wrong, this is all just like secondhand knowledge. I'm not familiar fully with St. Paisios's prophecies in full, but what he told me was, you're going to be driving down the road and you'll see billboards for movies that are going to glorify Christ. You're going to see Christ throughout all of this space. And God willing, we will see that one day, and not just in movies, but also in music. And that would be an incredible day.
I think it's happening. That does line up with a lot of the other, like America will be Orthodox and this and that. It is lining up. I just came back from North Carolina and South Carolina, and after we shot a podcast in the basement of John Here's restaurant, and 4 Protestant girls came downstairs. They were invited by someone, I can't remember who, and they sat there and watched our podcast live. And after the podcast, we went upstairs and we were talking, and they were asking a lot of questions about our Orthodoxy. This is a conversation that never would have happened if they hadn't come down to hear what we had to say. And actually, we were speaking of male and female relations. We didn't know that they were there. I didn't set it up that way. And to your point, they started asking, where can I find more stuff that's not apologetic debates, that's not like just someone throwing information at me. I want culture. I want this and that. And I started talking about some of the stuff you guys are doing that's coming up. I started telling them some of the stuff that we're doing, and a few other people that are kind of associated in our little circle. And they're like, oh, that sounds really interesting. So my point being is the interest is there. It almost seems people are thirsty for it. So I can see the day where we get to the point where through Texas, I'm going down the highway and I see a billboard for you guys or something that's on your platform or other people's, similar platforms and this and that. It's coming. It's coming. I could see it.
Yeah, I believe it will. Like, as much as like it's hard, right, living in the world as it is today, like it's easy to fall into that trap of despair, but there's so much good that's also happening. And that's kind of another goal with Logos, is to be like, let's shine a light on that good.
Yes.
And a great example that we used when we were planning the business side is we were looking at Angel Studios, right? Like they've done a really good job at doing that, but they also don't have the fullness of the faith. Correct. They don't have the Orthodox phronema. And Zach's spiritual father, who's helped us a lot on this project, he goes, it's very funny being an American and seeing like Christian media, which we dislike that term, but like Christian media in general, right, is predominantly controlled by the Protestants, right? Which, if you look into their just basic theology, right, they're iconoclasts. But they're the ones creating the movies and essentially creating moving icons for what Christ teaches and believes. And the Orthodox have, like, at least here in the West, like if we go over into Russia and look at Tarkovsky and what he's done, like there is some people who have done this years and years and years ago of making Orthodox content. But here in the West, we don't know that. We don't see it. It was either really hard to get your hands on due to the time that Tarkovsky was making films was during the Cold War. And so like a lot of that stuff never made its way over to the United States due to the geopolitical climate there was.
Good point.
And with streaming in particular, we have the ability to cross nations without having to necessarily worry about the geopolitical climate at a very basic level. So that's one of the cool things, is that more of these stories are going to be more at people's fingertips and stuff that's been around for a long time that maybe someone hasn't seen. I know Zach has on his list getting some of Tarkovsky's original films.
I would love to.
To be on Logos. So that's definitely one of our goals, is to get some of the older stuff that's already been created. But we also want to inspire the people who are here today who are wanting to create stuff. Like right before we went on this podcast, we got an email from a gentleman from Greece, and I didn't know who this person was. And so I started doing some Google research. Turns out this 14-year-old boy who's aspiring to be a screenwriter. Okay. And so I kind of put myself in his shoes. I was like, man, I remember being 14 and wanting to make movies.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he wrote a story about St. Paisios. And
it's beautiful.
It's a beautiful idea. But now there will be a place to mentor these people and help them craft their gift. And it also helps build, and I know this is something you guys are on too, is like building the Orthodox economy. I've seen more and more of that posted about like in the past week. And that's something we're viewing it as well, is like, this is a major industry, right? Filmmaking is a big industry and it drives many billions of dollars. And if we can support that, then it's going to trickle down to every other industry. And that's one of the things within Logos that we're doing as well, is at our lowest level, the $5.99 tier, which is ad supported. All the ads that are on there will be for Orthodox businesses or businesses that are run by Orthodox people. So if you have like a small law firm that is ran by an Orthodox person, they can put their ad on Logos Cinema and they're reaching an Orthodox audience. And then also like all the online shops that create Orthodox goods, they could put that on there and reach a wider audience, and really building that within the community. We can see that done throughout other religious communities. Like you can look at the Mormons. They're probably the best that do that. And then the Jewish population is really great at supporting their own. So the Orthodox, we should do that too. So and true. Like we have that unique culture where we're not just one culture. We're not just one dynamic. We are multiple different cultures throughout the world that have our own small t traditions that we practice, and different places of business that we do. And let's support that and grow that and work within our community.
Unity and multiplicity. It's in the Orthodox theology.
It is. It is.
Oh, yeah, here we go. Let's do this. Yeah, all right, let's go.
You know how the show goes, rough, rugged, and raw, so we just make things up on the spot. Right? Way to be subtle, man-o.
It's kind of scary. It's kind of weird. It's kind of interesting, especially when you piece together who owns Spotify and YouTube.
I want to take the breath that's true.
Garage.
Murder the sheets.
I found it funny that it was so stupid.
Let Nina Simone rule the world.
Just shut up, man. Like he's saying some crazy, amazing things. Misery. I like the idea of kind of being a little bit more open with you guys here on school. It takes balls, massive balls to do, massive testicles. You know what I mean?
I loved Buck, man. He's such a good dude.
Oh, it's like this everywhere. It's like this everywhere. That's starting to really annoy me because it's really not like this everywhere. Like this point and that point and no.
Maybe different than remember.
Take it easy, boys and girls. Have a good one. I love everything you guys just said. I'm so happy you guys are doing this. I had asked you guys before you jumped on, like, what's on your mind? What kind of things are rattling in your skulls? I heard a few cool things, and I could see some really good jump-off points. So let's get into some of that, because I could see this steering the conversation in a really great way, which ties in a lot of what you guys are doing and what you want to put out, like, moving forward. Who wants to start?
I can start. Barring all of the horrible news that floods our feeds on social media from around the world, I seemingly horrible, I should say. Obviously, it's pointed towards something that is providential from God. But really what's on my mind and what has continued to be on my mind for really as long as I can remember, I see the world in story. Even in my secular life, I was fascinated by the hero's journey, especially, and that golden thread, which we've talked a lot about in prior podcasts and a lot of videos that we do. And Andrew can speak more to that in a minute with Joseph Campbell. But I see everything in story. And I really view, especially coming into Orthodoxy, which puts everything that I thought I knew before in its fulfillment, right? Okay, this is what it means fully now. Wow, like it gives it so much more meaning. Really experiencing not only church, but the lived story of Christ through the Bible. He really God provides the perfect archetype for not only us and our lived real world experiences to try and emulate, but we also should be using that for the stories that we tell and the characters that we create, taking part in a small c creation, which is a gift from God, and emulating that as well, which has been so devoid in the stories. I don't remember the last time really, besides Man of God, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a few, but I really don't remember the last time I went to the movies or was excited or interested in going to see a modern film coming out. I really go back to things like Lord of the Rings, especially. We talk about that film so much, and I know it's talked about a lot, but I think it executed it perfectly, what we want to do and how we want to tell stories as well. Infusing that, albeit it was Catholic, but still that Christian, those Christian archetypes, and directing it back to the ultimate truth, planting those seeds. I really firmly believe that, having experienced that early on in my life, in my childhood, in my adolescence, not being a Christian, it did plant those seeds for me by God's grace to come into Orthodoxy, into the fulfillment of the truth. So I know that was a long-winded response, but that's kind of what
I really like that. That's great.
Yeah,
I could see. Sorry to interrupt there. I could see the passion in your eyes as you were saying it. I could feel it, man. I could feel it, and I think that you're right. That is something that we can look forward to, especially now that we're all kind of coming together and trying to put out stuff to edify people, not just to manipulate them in a negative way.
100%. Yeah, it's that hero's journey. So when I first decided I wanted to be a filmmaker, my aunt, God rest her soul, and her husband gave me Joseph Campbell's The Hero with a Thousand Faces.
Yeah.
And for all of Campbell's faults, the beautiful thing he did discover was the golden thread. And he maybe didn't make the full jump where he could say Christ is Lord, Christ is King. He did realize that is the trueness of the hero's journey right there. And we as a society, for whatever reason, our films over the past, it's really funny when you mention Lord of the Rings. Like, we talk about it a lot. And for me, I would say it was actually like after Star Wars' Revenge of the Sith. I remember specifically leaving the theater and in my brain saying, there isn't going to be anything left past this. Nothing is going to be to that same level of adheredness to the hero's journey. And you can see it, like from that 2003 era forward, films started to change and storytelling started to change. And it was less about that journey of the hero, which is something we as a people need. Yeah. Like, the reason why those stories exists is like Christ is the ultimate figure of the hero's journey. He follows it to a T and gives the ultimate sacrifice. And because he is both man and God, fulfills everything. And like there is within scripture, it says that the word of God is written on the hearts of man. I truly believe that that hero's journey is the very foundation of that. And that's my personal belief. I know that's not maybe necessarily the church's full belief, but like I think that's a good foundation to approach things and view things from. Because if you can talk to anyone, and it's a language that any culture can understand, is that hero's journey, because it's repeatable, understandable. They have their own heroes. You can bring people to Christ by utilizing that as the common language. And I would say maybe it was on purpose that we don't do that anymore from like the modern media perspective.
Yes.
But I don't know for sure if that's the case, but it looks that way. And our goal with Logos is we want people to tell those stories. We don't want Logos Cinema to just be documentaries and saint stories. Like, we're going to have that. Don't get me wrong. That'll be there. But we want people to think differently. And how can we tell a story that isn't necessarily just a saint's sanctification, but viewing it from a different perspective, from maybe the perspective of an interaction that person had with the saint and the lay person? That would be incredible, because everyone can put themselves in the shoes of a lay person. Not everyone can put themselves in the shoes of a saint. Like, there's a gap there, right? Like, we know what we need to do to hopefully one day achieve sainthood, but that gap in between, there's a lot of pitfalls, and it's difficult to reach that. So if you tell the story, or stories, I should say, from the perspective of your everyday person and how they're overcoming that and triumphing, oh wow, I'm messing up how to say that word. So that'll be a fun little blooper right there. But that's a hero's journey in of itself.
It is. Yes.
It is very important to do that. And we also want to like get back to the whimsical and the fun that stories should tell. Yep. They shouldn't just be heavy. You shouldn't go into a movie theater or watch something on the television. As I look over here to look at the big black box that's hanging to my right,
A24.
Yeah, like you shouldn't leave more depressed than you went in. Like that's not healthy. And there was a time where that was not the case.
Yes.
And I think this is the right time. I saw an article by the UOJ of Metropolitan Saba saying that orthodoxy has been discovered in the West, and now is the time to evangelize. And this is the way that Zach and myself and the rest of the Logos team can do so in a very broad way. And going back to one thing Zach said, planting that seed. Even if we plant the seed only in one person, then all this work for Logos will be worth it. And we know that planting that seed doesn't mean that they're going to become Orthodox. That's between God and that individual to make that journey. But if we had a small helping hand, we put just like the right word in the right place in the right film that spoke to that person, or we gave that person who created that film a platform to do that, then may it be blessed. Like that is worth all the efforts right there.
Oh, you guys, that was well put, and I think it's good to hear, because also it's a different approach to getting the word out. It's a different approach to showing examples. So someone may not be Orthodox and walk into a movie not knowing what's going on. It starts to spark a few questions depending on what's going on in the movie. All of a sudden they start digging, they start looking, because that's what a lot of people nowadays like to do, and glory to God for that, because that will, especially if on their GPS, their mental GPS, it's truth, they will find their way back to God and to our church, because a story carries with it many, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but it does carry with it a subliminal messaging. And if we're delivering that with an intent, which is also back to Joseph Campbell and his through line. Again, I like how you put that. Let's put aside all the negative about Campbell. The one thing he did identify is that humanity, regardless of time that they've existed, all have this story, this common thread that goes through all cultures. And when you look at culture in general, and comparative culture studies is what he was very big on. You see this there. So therefore, that must be written on the hearts of man through God's intent for people to search for this truth. And a story, especially film, because you combine visuals, you combine the written word as it's spoken, then you combine music and all this stuff. You actually do build this world, this environment for someone to kind of be put into this, like, forgive the term, simulacrum of some sort, to kind of describe a sort of little space, a little bubble where they can kind of ask questions, and they can be imbued with messaging that's far more edifying, that leads people to even, like, let's say back in the day, I remember when I was a kid, you guys brought up Lord of the Rings. I remember the first time I realized, oh, I see what he's doing here. This is a Christian story. And at that time I wasn't, I was like rebellious. I'm like, here's Christianity, right? But it really did get me thinking. I'm like, okay, these archetypes, these stories that are being told, they're time immemorial. There's something there that we can all relate to and connect to. And then you start reading Tolkien a little bit more, and it might lead you to actually pick up the gospel. It might lead you to walk into an Orthodox church. That TV show about Saint Paisios and his life. I know in Greece, my background's Greek. You guys probably already know that. I know the audience for sure does. I know in Greece they're having trouble with people not going to church. They're having this little bit of a liberal crisis there. That TV show has led a lot of kids, like the 14-year-old you're talking about, kind of rediscovering their Orthodox roots just through a TV show. You know what I mean? Man of God as well. I know that movie I watched before coming back to the faith, and it reminded me of my grandfather. It reminded me of Cyprus. It reminded me of all these things. So not to go off too far, I think there's a very big important thing here on how we create culture for our community, the intention as to why we're doing it. It doesn't always have to be a story of the saints or a documentary, this and that. There's other forms of art that can be presented to people. Of course, I mentioned Death to the World. I've heard many people's stories, Protestants and not, going to a punk show, and all of a sudden there's like a table there with these guys with giant beards. What's going on? They pick up this zine. They're like, I know what this zine looks like. You know what I mean? Awesome. They take it home, and then 2 minutes later they're like, what's up with this Orthodox thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that what you guys are doing is important, as I've said 100 times, and I'm really happy you guys are out there doing what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you, Mano. And actually, it's funny. Something, I don't know if you've seen this film. I know there's like a lot of people who haven't, and we're currently in talks with the distribution agency that has it. There's this film that we watched that we had on our list as we were starting to develop what films we were going to launch with. Okay. And like, of course, we had like Man of God on there, as well as like other content creators. But there is this film that my brother actually sent to me back in like 2022 when it was first released, called The Invisible Fight. And I
heard of it though. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had saw the trailer and I was like, well, that looks really like unique. My gut was like, oh, I bet you they're just using the aesthetic of Orthodoxy in the film. Mm-hmm. And we watched the trailer right when we were creating our list of films, and we're like, maybe we should put this on there, maybe we shouldn't. I don't know. Because it is all based on like some of the things in the trailer is like black metal, kung fu. And Orthodox monks. And I was like, they're just probably using the aesthetic of like the monks in Russia for it. So Zach and I actually, my wife, it actually started off, we both said, we'll end up watching it. My wife and I were like, let's watch a movie tonight. And I was like, you know what? We're going to watch The Invisible Fight. I don't know how this is going to go. Like, let's just try to find it. We were able to find it and rent it off of Amazon, which is the only place you can find it. And you actually can't find it in most areas of the world. My wife and I started watching it, and it is hilarious. But at the same time, it is incredible. And talking about like how you can tell a story without having any saints or anything like that, but get the Orthodox truth in it, it does an incredible job of doing that. Halfway through the film, Zach called me for something else, and I was like, yo, when you get home tonight, you need to watch this movie. This is the best movie I've watched in probably 10 years. And no one had watched it. Lord willing, we will have it on Logo Cinema. We're in the talks with them right now. But if you love Death to the World, you would love this film. It is.
I always say like it's Napoleon Dynamite and Edgar Wright meet orthodoxy. And if that interests you, watch this film.
And add in a little bit of like 1970s Jet Li and kung fu films. Yeah. It is that. It's not in English, but the subtitles are great that they have on it. It was not distracting to watch it in that format. And we'll just leave it at that. Like, it is a great film to watch. And and this is kind of one of the things that we've been asked, and we have a post about it on Logos, is like, will there be mature content? We do have like a clergy advisory board that will be advising us on films. And this was a film that we were watching and we're like, will people be offended by this? I don't know. And we talked to Zach's spiritual father about it. There is one scene where there is like rear nudity in it, but it's not gratuitous. And that's our main focus is like, if it's gratuitous, no way. But like for the story, it made sense. And it was less than 2 to 3 seconds. And the reason why I bring that up is there will be mature content on there. And it's important to not like hide those facts. Like we see that in Western media, with Christian media, in particular Christian media, where they whitewash it and take out all the ugliness and make everything pristine. And the truth is, that's not the world we live in. And
we call it Hallmark Christianity. That's the term we have for it.
And when you do that, right, like it can cheapen the story. Now,
absolutely.
If we were talking like Game of Thrones, that's a totally different conversation. There's a lot of stuff that we could delete from Game of Thrones, and you have the story still intact. And this didn't do that. And so, as much as we talked to our spiritual father about that, who's been overseeing the beginnings of this project, and he's like, I don't think it's necessarily a big deal. And so, like, that's kind of the guidance we're getting is like, we don't want to whitewash this. We want it to still be real and something that is like, what if somebody were to go to a movie theater and see a movie in a secular sense? We want the Orthodox films to feel that way, but they're going to leave with that phronema, with that seed that's planted, and not hiding the ugliness of things, but also not glorifying it or edifying it, just letting it be what it is. And if it serves the purpose of the story, like, don't delete it necessarily. And then also, like with the originals that we're producing, there's artistic ways of doing certain things and showing certain things or inferring certain things without necessarily having to show it. And that's the goal, is like, let's stretch that artistic muscle a little bit and figure out how we can keep that in the story. Because an example I go to is Saint Mary of Egypt, right?
I was
like,
thinking the same
if we tell the story of Saint Mary of Egypt, we would have to admit half of her story. But there's an artistic way of showing where she was and how she got to where she is at the end of her life. And if you omit that beginning part, there is no struggle. Like, you just find this lady in the desert who is holy, but you have to understand where she came from. And specifically, that's something that people struggle with greatly today. Like,
Yep.
It is a huge
Same with-
issue.
Same
Very
with like
relevant.
Saint Cyprian and many other examples like that, where you have to go into some dark stuff. I mean, it's part of the story, right? We
Yep.
as Orthodox Christians, that's one of the beauty of it is we view the reality of life. We don't shy away from it, and it comes with all the stink and all the things in between, because that struggle leads you to Christ.
Yep, and Christ still approaches us if we're willing to approach him
Exactly.
in that state.
Exactly.
Like he is always willing to approach us in whatever state we're in if we're willing to meet him.
Yeah.
So, guys, we're getting close to the end. I wanted to ask you guys to kind of go into where you see the future in the next couple of months, let's say, to a year, and then plug anything that you guys have coming or any final thoughts.
Yeah, so I can talk on that. And
Sure.
we're aiming for a soft launch in December.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is the website will be streaming and it'll have some limited content on the website version. Towards Q1, all the apps will roll out. And part of the reason why we have to do it that way is we're not just trying to make this like a YouTube where anyone can upload stuff to it. It has to go through Logos. It has to be reviewed by our clergy advisory board and approved, and then an agreement set in place. But further, it's to protect the people who've created that IP. If you put anything up on YouTube or any social media platform, anyone can take that. There's nothing called digital rights management. And so the reason why we're starting small in December with some certain films is we have the approval to do that. When we roll out the apps in the first quarter of 2026, that digital rights management will be in place. The reason why that's really important is for these Hollywood level films to be able to protect the IP that's been created. And some people might not like that, but the truth is we should protect those creators. And we should be rewarding them by being able to vote with our dollars and support something like Logo Cinema. And then furthermore, like through Logo Cinema, we're supporting those artists and creators. So in 2026, the first quarter, the apps will roll out on tvOS, iOS, Android OS, Roku OS, Samsung TV, and I always forget the sixth one.
Basically anything you could think of.
Yeah, pretty much like what most people have. There will be a dedicated application that will have the same feel as if you were to log into Netflix. It's going to interact that same way. And it'll be all Orthodox focused.
Okay.
Also during that time, we're working with a couple of people of creating a special launch event, and we'll have more details in the coming weeks on that. And it'll be an in-person event that will also be recorded and then streamed onto Logo Cinema.
Okay.
We've also partnered with Bazan Fest. So 2026 Bazan Fest, we will be the streaming platform for them to be able to
Nice.
watch all those films. Chris Villanasios is actually working with us. He's embedded within Logo Cinema. I've known Chris since
He's
the
awesome.
early days of Bazan Fest. And as soon as we started this project, when the time was right, we launched the social media, and I had messaged him months ago, and I was like, there's something I need to talk to you about. And then he got back to me. And then he was like, let's talk a little bit later. I'm getting things ready for Bazan Fest. And I was like, totally fine. Let's chat soon. Launched the social media, sent it to him. I was like, this is what I need to talk to you about. And he was like, let's hop on a call right away. And so he's all aboard on this. He 100% shares in this vision. And there's some things with Bazan Fest that are in the early developments that will also be community driven. I don't want to speak too soon on that quite yet because I still need to talk with Chris. But the goal is to hopefully have physical screenings of Bazan Fest here in the States.
Okay.
And We have a really great partner that will be assisting us in putting that event on. It's going to be incredible. We're going to change the face of Orthodox media with doing these types of things. And we would love to have like the Board No More network there with us.
100%.
So there's a lot of incredible things. I know Zach, who's in charge of content, Zach's role within Logo Cinema is he's the chief content officer. So if you have a film or something, you're going to want to talk to that guy. I work on the higher level business stuff overall. He's more eloquent in the storytelling department. And I'm taking on the boring tasks of running a business. So Zach will be the main person you'll talk to for that. So Zach.
Yeah, so Q1 in the first year of Logos launching, obviously we've already announced a couple of original projects that we're going to be working on. And we've had a lot of people reaching out to us about sometimes just ideas that they have or books that they have that they want to get made into films. People with pre-existing documentaries or films already. So it's been an absolute blessing talking with a lot of them and developing those ideas further into, because some of these people may not be filmmakers, but they have a really great idea. So being able to work with them and put it in a format that is digestible in a film format has been amazing. And we do have plans for much more, not only original content, but to add more licensed content as well. Work with these creators to bring their vision to life, and to properly reward them for their works as well. Because as many people know, and it's on our website as well, we compare what we are looking to pay creators versus what a YouTube may pay, or another SVOD streaming video on demand platform would pay. And a lot of these people are struggling to make ends meet, but they have really great content on YouTube, so they have to open up other streams of revenue. We want to make it so they don't necessarily have to do that anymore, and we're working towards that goal. And then I don't know if we talked about it earlier, but moving into the theater space, we talked about community a lot.
Yep.
Is eventually, yes, starting in the digital, which is less than ideal, but it's what we have to work with right now. And moving into that space and, like I said, by God's grace, sanctifying it. But then bringing back the communal aspect as well. Some of my favorite memories were it was a family event to go to the movies. Like you went and you experienced that together. You talked with your friends and your family afterwards about it during the movie. Like it was great. And that's what it was for so long. And unfortunately with streaming and everything else, everything has become so individualized. And obviously there's a couple other cultural factors at play there and other actors pushing for that. But it is part of our vision as well to bring it into back into the public limelight and the public stage, because it is a communal event, and we want to infuse that community into what we do and what we're building as well, because Orthodoxy is a communal faith. It is the communal faith. Yep. So why not emulate that for what we're working on as well? Yeah,
and it's like what Zach's saying. It's all strategic, right? Like we could work towards just releasing films in theaters, but like you're competing with the Foxes, the Disneys, and everyone. And at the end of the day, the theater houses are going to still pick those because they have the track record, right? And independent studios, it's really hard to do that, and it's a great risk to do so. And it's not that there isn't any faith in the films that have been developed or already made. It's more of the amount of money it takes to being able to compete with those already established studios who have money to burn on the theater releases. There's not enough people to support that at like a very impactful way. Like we need to build a foundation, and that's what starting with the streaming does, is we'll essentially build the foundation within like Logo Cinema to be able to go to bat for these creators and be like, you want this in theaters, we have the capital to be able to back that project and get it into multiple screens and really combat at that level. And so that's the goal. Is streaming is a low barrier to entry in the terms of distribution. We've figured that out. We know how we're going to be able to do that from a business side. But then we're going to be able to take it further and be able to have like the next Man of God in 800 plus theaters. That, God willing, that is the goal. And we 100% want to do that. And eventually, like, it would be really cool to have, like, make the ZanFest, like, equal to Sundance or, Cannes or, some of those big ones. Maybe even, God willing, one day, like, have a film festival in Constantinople.
That would be wicked. Yeah. Poor choice of words. That would be good. It's the old programming. It's still around. No, I think that's great, and it's what it's all about, is going from the digital to the analog and building community, putting things in front of human beings, and then after having long conversations over it, and getting to meet the people around you and seeing that there's others like you. That's a big one. Especially for the States. I mean, things are growing, and that's all great and fine. But now is a good time to start organizing and building our own, our own economic, systems and institutions where we can kind of really build the culture that we want to see for our kids. That's another big thing, is something that, I mean, we're all starting this stuff now, but later our kids will have access to this stuff, and hopefully, God willing, by then it'll be just as normal as, going to check out Netflix or, going on Spotify and checking out some tracks. You can have the Orthodox version of it. And another thing that is important, we've touched upon it a couple times, but it's good to kind of mention, we're not Protestants, so it doesn't have to be like, look, we love Jesus type of stuff. It's more of like, you know what I mean? Because there's something about that's kind of off-putting, right? And it's a little forceful. I like how you guys described it as iconoclasm, which it is. And, oftentimes you could put out art content where you are making this piece and you happen to be Eastern Orthodox. And therefore, that can kind of like create some sort of other energy for people to kind of gravitate to. So, in a good way of ending this, I don't know how. I never do ending the show. But gentlemen, honestly, I really appreciate what you guys are doing. Thank you guys for taking the time to come on. And I know this will not be the last time you guys are on here. And we're gonna, I think, build some sort of relationship after you guys being on here and stuff like that. And I think if you guys ever have anything to plug, you need to get the message out. You just want to talk and hang out. That's what we do here on SOS. We consistently and constantly have our guests come back on. So please, whenever, just reach out to me, and you guys have an open invitation. Let's put it that way.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. One thing to kind of just on our end close us out, one thing that can help us greatly as we are approaching the soft launch and then full launch is going to not just our social media, but your guys' social media. Follow us. That's the best way to connect. On our social media, you will find access to our website, which is live currently, and there is a form to fill out there. Currently, we have over 300 people that have filled out a form, which is incredible, seeing as how we haven't spent any ad revenue. We even took our foot off the gas on posting on social media when things started to blow up a month and a half ago. And we were like, we need to just head down and focus on making this thing work from a technical aspect. We want to have more people that fill out that form. The reason why is we're in the midst of a funding round currently to make this thing a reality. And going back to what my mentor said, having that hard data, that's that hard data. And right now we're showing really good results. But if we can push that even further, it helps us more to be able to make a great argument to the people who could invest, which, by the way, all the people who would be investing in this project are Orthodox.
Yes. Yep.
So it is people who share the same like-mindedness. We're not going to a venture capital firm or anything of that nature, but it is important for that, especially since they're smaller, right? Like a venture capital firm will just invest in a business that shows viability.
Yep.
We're going to smaller investors who are sharing of the same faith as we all are, who like been really successful in what they've done in their own business and are looking to support other businesses. And with that is high risk. And let's be real, filmmaking, music production, anything of that nature is considered an incredibly high risk venture.
Correct.
And so that's why having that data is really important for us.
Smart.
Because we can show them like, we've done this with just the boots on the ground that we have, which is just Zach, myself, and that's it. And that would be really helpful for us in particular.
Well, send me all the links and everything that you want me to add to it, and I will make sure that it's in the description. But not only that, I'll also push it on my channels too, and we'll see how we can help you guys. Thanks for doing the show, gentlemen. Have yourselves a wonderful evening.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you.